In a land where Hollywood meets politics, where dreams become nightmares, and nightmares become, well, even more nightmares. One man with questionably golden hair decided that Los Angeles needed a lesson. This is the epic story of how Donald J. Trump transformed protests in Los Angeles into basically a reality show episode that nobody asked for, but everybody watched. A saga that combines real facts with surreal absurdity, because frankly with Trump, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. To understand our epic story, we need to go back in time. Los Angeles has always been a city of dramatic contrasts, where Hollywood billionaires live next to communities struggling to survive. It's a city that has seen the Watts riots of 1965, the Rodney King riots of 1992, and countless other moments of social tension. Trump, meanwhile, has a complicated relationship with Los Angeles. During his presidency, he frequently criticized California, threatening to cut federal funding, complaining about homelessness, and generally treating the state like his personal political enemy. He actually once said that Los Angeles was a disgrace to our country, and that was at an official rally. But our story begins in 2025, when reality decided it needed more drama. It was January 2025. Los Angeles was facing a wave of protests related to housing policies, astronomical cost of living, and the eternal problem of homelessness. Nothing unusual for LA, but this time there were TV cameras everywhere. Our hero, and we use that term very liberally, was at Mar-a-Lago, living his best post-presidential life. For context, Mar-a-Lago is actually Trump's residence in Florida, a private club he bought in 1985 for $10 million and is now worth much more. It's from there that he actually tends to make his most interesting statements. So, while eating his morning hamburger, yes, Trump actually eats hamburgers for breakfast, this was documented during his presidency, he saw the news about LA. "This is a disaster," he declared, pointing at the TV with a piece of pickle. "When I was president, Los Angeles knew its place. Someone needs to solve this. And I know the perfect guy, me." His advisors, accustomed to this type of declaration, started sweating. Because when Trump says, "I'm going to solve it," history teaches us that, well, things get interesting. Like every great military strategist, Trump crafted a meticulous and well-thought-out plan. "Just kidding," he tweeted, obviously, but here's the real fact. Trump actually made over 34,000 tweets during his presidency. That's an average of 15 tweets per day, every day, for 4 years. The man has a serious relationship with social media. Tweet number 1. Los Angeles is out of control. Very sad. When I was president, this would never happen. Tweet number 2. Gavin Newsom, California governor, can't control anything. Total failure. Tweet number 3. Someone needs to show them how it's done. Maybe it's time for a genius intervention. And here's where our story takes a reality-based turn. Trump actually has a history of getting involved in situations that aren't necessarily his business. Remember when he offered help to rescue those boys trapped in the cave in Thailand? Or when he suggested he could solve the Middle East conflict very quickly? Trump decided he would personally go to Los Angeles. Not as a former president making a diplomatic visit. Not as a concerned citizen, but as Trump. He actually owns a private jet, a Boeing 757 he nicknamed Trump Force One. It's gold on the inside. Seriously. Gold. The news that Trump was going to LA to solve the protests spread faster than gossip in a small town. The media went into collective panic. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, yes, she exists and really is the mayor, immediately called an emergency meeting. "He's coming here to do what?" was apparently her first reaction, according to unconfirmed sources, because our story is half fiction, half reality. Trump arrived in Los Angeles with all the pomp and circumstance of, Trump arriving anywhere. Convoy of cars, helicopters, and yes, somehow he actually managed to include food trucks in the operation. Here's a real fact. Trump actually loves fast food. During his presidency, he served McDonald's hamburgers to college football teams at the White House. So the food truck idea isn't totally absurd. First stop, It wasn't City Hall. It wasn't meeting local authorities. It was Beverly Hills. Because, apparently, to understand Los Angeles's problems, you need to start with the richest part. Trump went to Rodeo Drive, yes, the famous luxury shopping street, and declared, "Look, this part of Los Angeles is perfect. Why can't the rest be like this?" A local journalist asked, "Mr. Trump, do you think the solution to housing problems is for everyone to move to Beverly Hills?" "Why not?" was his genuine response. Then Trump decided to visit the areas where the protests were actually happening. And here our story gains layers of surreal reality. Los Angeles really does have one of the largest homeless populations in the US, over 75,000 people. It's a complex problem involving housing costs, mental health, drug addiction, and public policy. Real solutions require years of coordinated work between multiple agencies. Trump arrived in the middle of a homeless encampment in Venice Beach and declared, "This is very simple to solve. You just need to get houses." The crowd of protesters, journalists, and locals fell silent for approximately 3 seconds. Then someone shouted, "Genius! Why didn't anyone think of that before?" And that's when Trump realized they were being sarcastic. Or were they? With Los Angeles, you can never be sure. And then the inevitable happened. Trump, in all his Trumpness, decided to dialogue directly with the protesters who were protesting about housing policies. "People!" he shouted into the megaphone, which someone from his team had bought, in a rush from a corner store. "You're protesting wrong. Let me show you how to do a real protest." Here's a fact. Trump actually has experience with protests. He organized rallies during his presidential campaign that were intense. He knows how to work a crowd. The protesters reacted with a mixture of confusion, anger, and morbid curiosity. Signs were raised. "Who invited him?" "This is not a drill." And my favorite, "Is this real life?" But then something unexpected happened. One of the protest leaders, a woman named Maria Santos, fictional name to protect her sanity, approached the microphone and said, "Okay, Trump, if you think you know how to protest better, prove it." And here's where our story takes the most absurd turn possible. Trump didn't try to stop the protests. He tried to improve them. "These signs are too small," he declared, looking around like a film director. "Where are the special effects? Where's the production value? People, you're in Los Angeles. This is Hollywood. You can do better than this." Here's a real fact. Trump actually has entertainment experience. He produced and starred in The Apprentice for 14 seasons. The man understands television production. Suddenly, the LA protest became a production. Trump started giving directions. "You guys in the back, raise those signs higher. Cameras can't see." "Who's shouting the slogans? We need more passion, more energy." "And where's the music? Every protest needs a soundtrack." The crowd was confused, amused, slightly hypnotized. It was hard to tell. The media, of course, completely lost its sanity. It was like all news networks had a simultaneous collective nervous breakdown. CNN brought Anderson Cooper live from a helicopter. This is literally the most surreal moment of my journalistic career, and I've covered hurricanes. Fox News was torn between defending Trump and trying to understand what the hell was happening. Trump is helping the protesters? Is this good? MSNBC simply showed Rachel Maddow staring at the camera in silence for 47 seconds before saying, "I have no words. I literally have no words." TMZ, meanwhile, was in its element. Trump spotted eating tacos with protesters, exclusive footage. Because yes, the food trucks had arrived, and Trump was actually eating tacos. But here's where our story gets really interesting. The protesters started to like the production value. Maria Santos approached Trump during a break, because apparently even Trump-directed protests need intermissions, and said, "You know what? We've never had this much media coverage, never had so many people pay attention to our problems." Trump, chewing a taco, replied, "Of course, you needed someone who understood show business." And so, inexplicably, the housing protests in Los Angeles became a collaboration between local protesters and a former president who thought he knew how to protest better. 3 days later, something completely unexpected happened. The Trump-directed protests were working. Not in the way anyone expected, but working. The massive media coverage had brought national attention to LA's housing problems. Local politicians, embarrassed by the surreal situation, actually started discussing solutions. Tourists were coming to see America's best-produced protests. Venice Beach, where it all started, was making money from tourism. Food trucks were thriving. The homeless were receiving more donations and attention than in years. Trump had accidentally created protest tourism, America's first profitable demonstration industry. "I always knew this would work," Trump declared in an impromptu beach interview. "Nobody understands business like me, not even protest business." Governor Gavin Newsom, who has a real history of political rivalry with Trump, initially tried to ignore the whole situation. But when the Trump-directed protests started generating positive economic results, he had to respond. At a press conference in Sacramento, Newsom said, "While I fundamentally disagree with the methods, I can't deny they've brought attention to important issues." Trump, watching from the beach while eating another taco, tweeted, "Gavin finally admits I was right. Los Angeles is better with me here." Newsom didn't respond publicly, but sources close to him said he was seen muttering, "Why is my life like this?" several times that day. Then requests started coming from other cities. San Francisco wanted Trump to improve their tech protests. Seattle asked for help with coffee demonstrations. Apparently that's a thing there. Miami wanted him to organize a protest about expensive sunscreen. Trump was in paradise. He had found a new career, professional protest consultant. "I always knew I had a talent for this," he declared in an interview with Larry King. Yes, this scenario is so surreal that Larry King came back to active duty. "Nobody understands crowds like me. Nobody understands energy like me. Now I'm combining both." But then reality decided to show up to the party. Because while the protests were successful at drawing attention, Los Angeles's real problems, unaffordable housing, homelessness, inequality, still existed. Maria Santos, who had become a sort of co-producer of the protests, confronted Trump. "Okay, this has been interesting, but now what? How do we actually solve these problems?" Trump was silent for approximately 10 seconds, a personal record. Then he said, "Well, you could build more houses?" "Where? With what money? With what policies?" Maria pressed. "That sounds too complex for a protest," Trump admitted. "Maybe you need people who understand real politics?" It was the most honest moment of Trump's political career. And so, our story reaches an ending nobody predicted. Trump didn't solve Los Angeles problems, but he did something that might be more valuable. He made people pay attention. The protests continued even after Trump returned to Mar-a-Lago, but now they had structure, organization, and yes, officially licensed food trucks. Los Angeles created America's first official protest district, with guided tours, official merchandise, and workshops on how to protest effectively. The city was earning millions in tourism. Maria Santos became the first officially recognized director of protests of an American city. Her salary, paid by taxes generated from protest tourism. Donald Trump, the man who proved that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to turn it into entertainment. He didn't save Los Angeles the traditional way. He saved it in the most Trump way possible, by making so much noise that it was impossible to ignore. Here's the real truth behind our satire. Los Angeles really does have serious housing and homelessness problems. Trump really did have a complicated relationship with California during his presidency. And protests really are a legitimate way to draw attention to social problems. Our absurd story suggests something interesting. Sometimes, when traditional methods fail, maybe you need to think outside the box, even if that box is very, very strange. Trump returned to Mar-a-Lago with a new business line. Trump Protest Productions, making your voice heard with style. Los Angeles continued being Los Angeles, but now with better organized protests and more food trucks. And somewhere in the middle of all this, real problems got a little more attention than they would have gotten otherwise. This was the Unauthorized, biography of Trump versus Los Angeles, where politics met show business, where absurdity met purpose, and where everyone learned that sometimes reality is stranger than fiction. 6 months later, Maria Santos was elected to the Los Angeles City Council on a platform of responsible and effective protesting. Her first official act? Making Protest Food Truck Appreciation Month official. Trump sent a congratulatory telegram. "I always knew you had potential, tremendous. Maybe I should run for mayor of Los Angeles." Maria Santos didn't respond. Some things are too sacred even for protest. No food trucks were harmed in the production of this biography. Several were promoted to successful franchises. The real housing problems in Los Angeles still need real solutions. But at least now we have better tacos at protests.